Hello, today we are doing section 11.6, surface area and volume of cones. I'm going to go through the slides that have vocab on them pretty quickly to save you some time and me some time. Feel free to pause so you can write all the words down and then listen to what I talk about, and then move on with your video. We have some definitions, some formulas, and then a couple of examples. So today our essential question is, how do you find the surface area and volume of cones? We know that a cone is a shape that with a circular base that tapers smoothly to the vertex. We're going to label a picture of that in a moment. The slant height of a cone is the distance from the vertex to the edge of the base. The lateral area of the cone is the area of the curved lateral surface, and the surface area of a cone is the sum of the lateral area and the area of the base. Again, go ahead and pause your video, make sure you have your definitions written down, and then move on to the next slide. The next thing we're going to do is label the parts of our cone. We're going to start with slant height. Again, just like before, we use that little cursive L to represent slant height. And it's going to be this distance here from the top of your cone, which is the vertex, to the edge of your base. We also have something called altitude. That guy is right here. It is this length. The altitude is also known as height. So if you want, this guy is also height. And then we have the base, which is just, the curved surface down here. You got your radius, it looks great. And the last thing is, we call this a right cone. It just means that it's a cone that's straight up and down. It's not slanted. You don't have to worry so much about what a right cone is. But again, pause, write down these words, move on to your next slide. We're going to talk about two formulas today. The first one is for the lateral area of the cone. The lateral area of a cone is half the product of the slant height and the circumference of the base. Don't forget, you need 1/2 for this formula. I would do 1/2, and then we want our circumference. Remember, this formula is 2 pi r. So we do 1/2 times 2 pi r, and then times slant height, which is L. So maybe you want to know this guy over here is L. Now, if you notice in my little equation here, I have a 1/2 and a 2. When I multiply those two together, we're just going to get 1. So this formula is really just pi r L, which is your slant height. So for your lateral area, more than anything, you need to know this formula over here. That is the one that you'll be using, pi r L. The surface area of a lateral or of a cone is the sum of the lateral area and the area of the base. So we're going to do LA plus the area of our base. All of the bases today will be circles, so it's going to be plus pi r squared. Again, this is going to be the second formula that you need to know. These two are going to be used for every single assignment you do today. Well, every single problem. My first example, it says find the lateral area and the surface area of the cone below. We're going to start out by writing down our formula. Remember, our formula for lateral area is LA equals pi times your radius times your slant height. Luckily in this one, I'm given my slant height, which is 7. I'm also given my radius, which is 4. So we're going to go ahead and plug in those numbers. So I have LA equals pi times 4 times 7. We'll leave this one in terms of pi, and then the next one will actually multiply. So if I do that, we're going to do 4 times 7. That gives me 28. So my lateral area would be 28 pi. And then we're talking lateral area, so my units are going to be centimeters squared. Again, anything with area has units that are squared. Our next step is to find our surface area. My formula for surface area is SA equals LA plus pi r squared. We already know what our lateral area is, so we have SA equals 28 pi plus pi times our radius squared. Our radius is 4, so plus 4 squared. If I simplify that, I have 28 pi plus 16 pi. When I square 4, I get 16. And then we're going to go ahead and add those together. When I add 28 and 16, I get 44. So my surface area would equal 44 pi. And again, my units would be centimeters squared. All right, and that takes us to the end of our first problem. Again, those are my two answers in terms of pi. You don't have to multiply pi out, but that is how you find lateral area and surface area. Our second example, we need to find the lateral area and surface area again. Remember, my formula for lateral area is LA equals pi times the radius times the slant height. Now in this case, we have our radius, which is 2. And then instead of slant height, we have just the height. If you notice, I'm going to use my little highlighter. I have this beautiful little right triangle here, which means we're going to use my most favorite theorem, the Pythagorean theorem. We're going to use a squared. Ooh, let's not write that in a highlighter. We are going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, my slant height is going to be my c value, so this is c, which is also going to be my little l. And then you can choose which one's a and which one's b. So let's say my 2 centimeters is a and my 5 centimeters is b. And then we're just going to plug that all in and find our slant height, which is c. So I have 2 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. If I square 2, I just get 4. If I square 5, I get 25. That all equals c squared. 4 plus 5 gives me 29. So I have 29 equals c squared. And then to undo my squared, we're going to take the square root of both sides. And then we're going to go ahead and type in the square root of 29 into a calculator. I'm going to go ahead and just round that to the nearest tenth. So we're going to do the square root of 29, and we want 1 decimal. When I do that, I get c equals 5.4. And remember, that's the same as L. So that's our slant height. So now we have our slant height, so we can plug everything into my formula. I'm going to have lateral area equals pi times my radius, which is 2, times my slant height, which is 5.4. If I multiply that, 5.4 times 2 gets me 10.8. So we're going to have 10.8 pi. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator. And when I do that, I get 33.9. So my lateral area would be 33.9. And my units would be centimeters squared. Again, the units are still squared. We're talking about area. For surface area, we're doing lateral area plus pi r squared. If I plug in my numbers, we're going to do surface area equals 33.9 plus pi times 2 squared. When I square 2, I get 4, so I really have 33.9 plus 4 pi. If I multiply 4 times pi, I get 12.6. And if I add that to 33.9, I get 46.5. So my final answer would be surface area equals 46.5 centimeters squared. And that is lateral area and surface area. On your worksheet, you have 6 problems. 3 of them you're doing in terms of pi, 3 you are rounding to the nearest tenth. Thanks for watching.